Welcome back to Politics Tonight, and thank you very much for staying with us. 63 years after independence, development remains stunted with so many abandoned projects everywhere. And experts say Nigeria needs between $100 billion and $150 billion annually over the next 30 years to close its infrastructure deficit. But how is this present administration addressing all this? We will find out tonight. Joining me for proper perspective into this discussion is Senator David Umahi, Minister of Works. Senator Umahi is the immediate past governor of Ebonyi State, South Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us, Honorable Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you tune up your device over there so that I can hear you very well? But good evening and thanks so much for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Let me start this conversation with you. You started work as a minister on sanitizing spirit. How far have you gone with bringing sanity at the Ministry of Works?
I can barely hear you now.
Right. Let me repeat my question. I would like us to start this conversation with you and the ministry where you're operating at the moment. You started work as a minister on sanitizing spirits. So I'm asking, how far have you gone with bringing sanity at the Ministry of Works?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with the Ministry of Works, but we can always do better, and that's what we are striving to do. We're trying to do better, and that's what is expected of us, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Right. So I asked that question because upon assumption of office, you had a clash with the workers, but you later apologized, saying you can't do without them. How are they keen into your vision?
Well, it's normal. Even the tongue and the teeth normally do have a misunderstanding. I think it wasn't, a misunderstanding that was to be taken to heart. I think it was a process of us trying to understand ourselves. So such a process has come and gone, and we are together, working together. Everybody is happy, and we're conscious of the assignment Mr. President and the public gave to us. And we are simply, striving to live up to the expectation of Mr. President and the public.
All right, so that's good to hear. But we also have it on reports that you work day and night, even at weekends. What is the motivation, and how do you strike a balance between work and family?
I hope my wife doesn't hear this. But, Mr. President inherited quite a huge task. And if you also check, I was in Villa on Friday, up to 11 p.m. The president was still working. And so if Mr. President will work up to 11 p.m., 1 a.m., for us to meet up with his expectation and to be part of, carrying this burden, very huge burden, and very serious and high expectation of the public, we have to put extra hours. And that's what we're doing. My last child is 9 years old, and so I still find time for my family, but it's just putting extra hours to get things working. When the plane is trying to take off, it needs a lot of effort. And so by the time we are cruising, then the family will also regain their position. But right now, they must have to give some sacrifices so that the expectations of the public, Mr. President and God Almighty, will be met.
Right. So it became very important for us to have this conversation because of the numbers out there, and juxtaposing that with the president's policy documents, which shows that the president recognizes infrastructure investments as a crucial driver to economic growth. The vision of President Tinubu is to modernize and expand public infrastructure for the economy to grow. How is this being pursued?
Can you come back? I just lost you.
The vision of President Tinubu is to modernize and expand public infrastructure for the economy to grow. So I'm asking, how is this being pursued?
To modernize and expand infrastructural development, if I got you right.
Absolutely. So how is this being pursued?
I missed you totally.
All right, so let me kick off that question from the very beginning. The vision of President Tinubu is to modernize and expand public infrastructure for the economy to grow. So my question is, how is this being pursued? Honorable Minister,
when you say the vision of Mr. Is echoing back here?
All right, so let me repeat this. I was saying that we all know that the vision of President Tinubu is to modernize and expand public infrastructure for the economy to grow. How is this being pursued?
Okay, well, we're just starting. The important thing is that if you know where you're going, you probably get there. So we understand clearly the vision of Mr. President in terms of the infrastructure development in our country vis-a-vis the road sector. And we have, come up with a number of programs to expand the infrastructure development in the area of road sector. We have the HDMI program, which is the Highway Development and Management Initiative. And this is on a green belt and a brown belt. Is this to allow the public, the private sector to get involved? And that is quite innovative of Mr. President. So you can, as a private sector person, take up a totally, new route that maybe has not been worked upon for a number of years, but does, need rehabilitation and reconstruction. So you can take it up and they construct, under the PPP arrangement, and then toll it, or partially or fully constructed road, you take it up and, toll it, construct it and toll it. So these are quite new innovations of Mr. President. And, of course, we're also looking beyond the budget on how to fund the infrastructure road sector development. So these are all quite very ambitious but very courageous procedures of the present administration of Mr. President. And we are at it, and I believe strongly with the courage of Mr. President and with God Almighty on our side and our commitment, passion, and dedication. Will we get there? Definitely, we will get there.
So let's now come to one of the biggest questions on the lip of many Nigerians, which is that Nigeria is facing a serious infrastructure deficit. How did we get to that level?
Can you come back? Is it the deficit in terms of, funding, or a deficit in terms of, the motorable roads?
Overall infrastructure deficit. So I'm asking, how did we get to that level? Because if we're to consider the World Bank recommendation of 70% infrastructure to GDP benchmark, Nigeria is currently on 30%. So the question on the lips of many Nigerians is, how did we get to that level?
I think you should be asking, how do we get out of it? And it's better to spend our time thinking on how to solve a problem than to start thinking about the root of the problems and so on and so forth. Because one of the greatest challenges we still have as a people is to spend so much time thinking about a problem and spend less time thinking about how to solve the problem. So I think we're following the footsteps of Mr. President. He's not complaining. He's very courageous. He's aware of the enormity of the problems, he inherited. And so we are sharing the burdens with him. And so all our thoughts, presently is how to get out of these problems.
All right, so before we get to how to get out of these problems, you once described the decay in road infrastructure in the country as frightening and requiring courage to tackle. Did you see the president doing this?
I didn't hear you very well.
Honorable Minister, you once described the decay in road infrastructure in the country as frightening and requiring courage to tackle. Do you see the president doing this?
I'm not very clear of your question.
All right, so according to you, you once described the decay in road infrastructure in the country as frightening and requiring courage to tackle. How committed is the president on this? Did you get my question, Honorable Minister?
I think your device is a big an issue.
All right, let's take a quick break.
Okay, rephrase your question, please.
All right, then. All right, so you once described the decay in road infrastructure in the country as frightening and requiring courage to tackle. So I'm asking, do you see the president doing this?
Whether Mr. President is aware of this, are you saying, how is he doing this?
Honorable Minister, you once described, I'm relaying your statements now. You once described the decay in road infrastructure in the country as very frightening. And you also said it requires courage to tackle. So I'm asking, do you see the president doing this? And how committed is he?
Well, I've already said it, you know, Mr. President, if you know him very well, he's a man of courage. A man of few words and a man of courage. And he's of the private sector in the sense that there is nothing we are passing through that is very new to him. And so he's very experienced in all these innovative procedures that he has marshaled out for us to come out of these problems. So one thing that you will give to Mr. President anytime, any day, is that he's a man of courage. And if you are working with him, you also must be courageous and should be able to learn from him and should be able to also understand his strategies and the techniques, you know. He doesn't complain. He gets into the problems. He thinks outside the box. And we are learning and we are following his footsteps. So we'll get there.
All right, then. But many analysts are commending you for bringing expertise as a thoroughbred structural engineer to transform road infrastructure in the country. What roles can other professionals play to get the country out of this mess?
I heard you say that I'm an experienced structural engineer. Can I understand you very well?
Honorable Minister, this is for you. I said many analysts are commending you for bringing expertise as a thoroughbred structural engineer to transform road infrastructure in the country. But I'm also asking, what roles can other professionals play to get the country out of the mess?
Well, I'll be able to talk about, the Ministry of Works per se, what other professionals are going to be playing. We have so many other professionals that are working with us. We have the legal department. We have the material department. That's your technical engineering department. We have the surveying department. So it's a teamwork. It's a teamwork. And when you bring the entirety, we cannot, go to, award a contract without the procurement department, of course, without the legal department looking at, every aspect of the bidding document. So it's a teamwork. It's when all these things are done, then the field people will now, be out there to supervise the job.
Right. So let's now get to what needs to be done. As an honorable minister, what do you think Nigeria needs to do to bridge the infrastructure gap, especially roads in the country?
I have a problem with this device. I think, it's not flowing very well. I don't know.
All right, let me repeat that question. What do you think Nigeria needs to do to bridge the infrastructure gap, especially roads in the country? What do you think Nigeria needs to do? Did you get that?
Hello, come back.
All right, Honorable Minister, let's take a break. Welcome back to Politics Tonight. Thank you so much for staying with us. Tonight, you're looking into how the federal government is addressing infrastructure deficits with the Minister of Works, Senator Dave Umahi. Honorable Minister, thank you so much for staying with us. Now, let's move on with this conversation. You suggested the idea of constructing superhighways from Abuja to Lagos and from Port Harcourt to Lagos. How feasible is this?
Well, even though I'm not hearing you very well, but at least you've mentioned very important project of the present administration, and you're asking how feasible is the coastal route, and I want to say that the coastal route, with all the help of God, is as visible and feasible and as a reality as the air we breathe it. We have advanced very seriously on the project, and I believe strongly that we'll be able to kickstart that project this year.
Right, but looking back, past administrations adopted various strategies to fix roads in the country, a strategy like Sukuk. What's the situation now?
I can't hear you. Can you be more audible, please? It's so faint.
All right, so what I said was past administrations adopted various strategies to fix roads in the country, like Sukuk. So I'm asking, what's the situation with that now?
A number of programs, we are deploying to address the road infrastructure deficit. Yeah, Sukuk, we are still on Sukuk. We are doing a PIDF, which is Presidential Initiative on, Infrastructure Development. We are on HDMI, like I said before, and of course, direct funding from the, budget. We have the tax credit where, private sectors, are free to develop, roads by front-loading their tax credits, to use it to do roads that will interest and improve their businesses. We also have the NMPC tax credit, which is also a very wise initiative whereby, certain routes within the distribution cycle of NMPC products, are being sponsored by NMPC. It's also a tax credit, which is front-loaded. So that many of these, programs, we also have the EPC plus F, that's engineering, procurement, construction plus finance. These are a number of programs that the federal government has deployed to vigorously, tackle the road infrastructure.
Right, so you just mentioned that the NNPCL is fixing some roads under the federal government's road infrastructure and refreshment tax credit scheme. What's the progress on the roads?
We have good progress on the roads, even though NMPC is not funding 100% of the cost of this project. But so far, so good. It has definitely improved a lot in our road infrastructure deficit. And the projects are all ongoing, and they're very well selected, and they're very well supervised. And I want to commend the NMPC team and the FIRS, for their commitment and passion, towards this program.
All right, so we'd like to have some updates on this. How many more private companies funding roads under this scheme after the executive order signed by former President Buhari?
Yeah, we have the Dangote Group, and they're doing fantastic jobs, a number of places in the country. But the very visible, you can see and feel, is the Apapa Oshodi, Worunshoki route, done with concrete road pavement. It's an excellent performance by Dangote, with a high-tech construction firm. We have the Bua Group that also doing some routes. We have MTN that, is also working on Enugu, Onitsha. There are few other companies that, indicated interest contracts signed, but they have not really taken off. I know of one other company, not as big as this company I've mentioned in Aba, that is doing a concrete road pavement under tax credit. But we are, sent a paper to Mr. President to give us approval so that other big companies that are willing to engage in this tax credit will also be allowed to. The benefit of this tax credit is that the taxes of these companies are front-loaded because we have problems. We have problems, and we need funding to solve the problems. And when we solve the problems of this road infrastructure, it will increase everything. That will grow the economy. It will improve on security, on agriculture, on commerce, on education. Everything is about roads. If you can't move from one point to the other, it's difficult. You see, rich people, could send their people to private, universities, private hospitals, and so on and so forth. But you cannot have a private road. This is one thing that is common both for the rich and for the poor. And so road infrastructure is highly, a tool, or a very serious tool for the development of, the economy. And that's why Mr. President is taking very key interest in addressing the road sector deficit.
All right. Just for the sake of emphasis and better understanding, you have made a case for use of cement to build concrete roads in the country. How effective is it in building sustainable and cost-efficient roads?
Thank you very much. People just thought that concrete road is being introduced now. No. I should say that the father of concrete road in this country is Mr. President. When he was governor of Lagos State, he did quite a lot of work using interlocking ties. And interlocking ties is another kind of concrete road pavement. All over VI, there's nothing we put basically in that VI that will last other than those interlocking ties. And see, today, they're there. And so another aspect of concrete road pavement is the one we're doing. And this type is reinforced concrete pavement. And there are two types. You can have the ones, that you introduce some joints, which in case you can use BRC to do that. But you can also have a continuous reinforced concrete pavement, whereby you use some, sizes of rods, depending on the design, to put at the bottom of the concrete. And that takes, the tension at the bottom because we are addressing, concrete on compression. Concrete is very good at compression. And those loads, vehicular loads, is all, adding to the compressive requirement of any pavement infrastructure. So concrete is the best in terms of the compressive, answer to the load, pavements. But let me say something very important. The Ministry of Works has at no time banned the use of asphalt, or we have not said that concrete road pavement is the only, allowed road pavement. It has to be well understood. We have a problem in this country. We have, challenges that we inherited as an administration. And Mr. President has told us to all think outside the box. And we've seen the pressure on our naira. And now, when people want to talk about asphalt and, concrete, and I say to them that when you want to compare one, with the other, then in economics, we say ceteris paribus, all things being equal. This time, all things are not equal. We take off the asphalt. We're saying if we are using asphalt, no problems, we welcome it. But there's certain terrain that we must specifically, specify the use of concrete. In certain northern parts of this country, you can use asphalt, it's well acceptable, but you cannot say that asphalt is more durable than concrete. No. Why we say you can use asphalt is on the condition that the variation on the asphalt, which we call VOP, will not exceed 5% of the signed contract. And so if you are using asphalt, just know that the geometrical progression in terms of inflation on asphalt is not going beyond the 5% throughout the life cycle of that project. And that the thicknesses as we have designed must be maintained, and that it will have to endure at least 15 years of the shelf life of the asphalt. Of course, our asphalt life cycle is 20 years, but we say assures through an insurance bond that your work on asphalt will last for 15 years. Now, if you are using concrete, we are saying, yes, you can use concrete, especially in terrains where we have, challenges of swamp, and you have, a lot of rainfall, like in the south and other part, southern part of Nigeria and part of north central, and even some other parts of the north. You can use concrete. And we are saying to you, if you are using concrete, the design shelf life of concrete is 50 years, and the grade of concrete is 40, and so you have to use that. And when people compare asphalt to concrete in terms of cost, it doesn't follow, because in some of the roads being done on asphalt, they have even 3 binder courses of, 3 courses of binder costs, which is far higher in cost than the use of concrete 8 inches thickness on our roads. And yet, this one will last for 50 years, no maintenance, almost, and the asphalt will need to be frequently maintained. So the truth is that those contractors that are going about darkening council, without knowledge, know what they are digging for. I think that when people prefer that they must continue to use asphalt, it's because I believe strongly that they are using it to, freight away, the foreign exchange, and put pressure on the naira. And so why is it that we cannot use what is locally available here and is more durable, and the inflection on the use of concrete is on a rhythmical progression, whereas that of asphalt is geometrical progression. And so people will not ask you to commit suicide, and they won't tell you the type of suicide you commit. So when people debate on these things, it's quite very shocking, because they don't really understand, the dynamics.
All right. So, Honorable Minister, does this mean you're ready to back down on the use of concrete?
Hello?
I asked, I said,
Hello?
does this mean, going by your explanation, Honorable Minister, going by your explanation, does this mean you're ready, or you're prepared, rather, to back down on the use of concrete? Because contractors are opposing to this.
Well, even though I didn't hear you very well, but each time you mention concrete, I'm excited, because we need to say this concept to our people. The use of concrete is not compulsory unless the ministry has indicated fully that concrete must be used. For the ongoing projects, we have agreed with a number of contractors, and we have signed, without exceeding the contract sum, on redesigning the ongoing projects on concrete. And when people argue and say, look, to redesign this project is going to be against the legal, that will have legal implication. And I refer them to the same contract we signed with contractors, Article 2. And part of the Article 2 is stating the documents that, forming part of the contract. And the general conditions of contract is part of that, Article 2. And in Clause 51, it says that the client, through the engineer, can rescope the project, which means that they can increase the project, in terms of the size, in terms of, the length, the width, the thicknesses, the quality, the quantity, etc. And it goes down, to Clause 51 and Clause 52 to, specify that, we have to enter into an understanding with contractors. So we are doing this with the understanding of the contractors, and it is our legal right to demand. For example, if you have a contract and you didn't know that there is underground water there, and you get to that point, and then you need to change the scope, it is allowed under the contract to do that. And so we are covered fully, legally, in whatever thing we are doing in terms of our choices on the kind of pavement we use, depending on the soil texture and the subgrade strength.
All right. Honorable Minister, you're also campaigning against the use of laterite for construction of roads. Why this?
I don't understand what you mean by the use of laterite. I'm against that any road that is in existence. And some of these roads, have lasted for, 20, 30 years. And when we have such roads lasting for 20, 30 years, and you find out that the subgrade, which subgrade is made of laterite, or sharp sand as the case may be, that it has not failed, which means that the CBR, is still very good. That's the California bearing ratio. That is still very good. And so you don't go ahead to start removing the failed asphalt and start putting another laterite. There is no way you put a new laterite and you compact it that you can get a better CBR. And so what we have directed in all the existing road pavement that we want to improve upon is mill the asphalt, don't destroy the asphalt. Mill it and then pulverize it with the existing stone base. And then you put another stone base, fresh stone base, and then put your pavement structure. That is an excellent, construction procedure. But you find out that in some cases, they now remove the asphalt and throw it away, and remove the existing stone base, throw it away, and start feeding the subgrade with a new material, which is by every standard, lower in terms of the CBR strength, than the existing subgrade. So that is what you say, and it's very clear, and it's engineering practice. But in this country, even those who are not engineers, and I've called an NSA to check it, and I'm happy that Federal Executive Council today, has, directed that to supervise our road projects must be registered engineers. And so you see a lot of people jumping in as contractors without understanding, the engineering ethics. And so they begin to lecture people that should be lecturing them.
All right, Honorable Minister, now let's talk about bridges. Recently the federal government embarked on the rehabilitation of some bridges across the country. Can you give us an update on these?
I didn't hear you well. Can you be more audible, please?
I want us to talk about bridges. Recently, the federal government embarked on the rehabilitation of some bridges across the country. Can you give us an update on this? Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sure that you saw me on Saturday night inspecting the Third Mainland Bridge at night because our flight was delayed, so we came in late and we needed to do that. And then also inspect some other bridges like the Cool Bridge that work is ongoing. We are inspecting a number of bridges. We have a bridge department, and we are doing that because some of these bridges were constructed 50 years ago. Like the Third Mainland Bridge was constructed about 56 years ago. And, it's quite a very complex structure, but it needs full attention of the federal government. And we are giving that full attention. And a couple of things are needed. The piling, because, the pipes are, done under two conditions. They say that we are stabilizing the pipe under skin friction or it is end-bearing. In the case of Third Mainland Bridge, what you have there is skin friction. And this skin friction is provided by sharp sand. And so over time, you have erosion and you have people digging, harvesting sand. And so we have a situation right now there, and we are tackling it because we've gotten some very technical people from outside the country, and of course, Beja. They are now going to inspect the bed of the river to find out how far these pipes are doing. We also have a couple of attention that are needed, on the pipe caps and the piers, and even the deck. Very complex this thing because it has pre-stressed, mechanism of the tendon. So we are doing all that. Not just that, we are inspecting all our bridges all over the country to give it attention. And the bridge department, I'm very happy with what they are doing. And the stitching time saves 9. And that's what we have embarked upon. We get there.
Right. So let's also talk about the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, which is one critical highway in the country. What's the progress report on that road?
I lost you.
I want us to talk about the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, which is one critical highway in the country. Honorable Minister, can you hear me? I want us to talk about the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, which is one critical highway in the country. What's the progress report on that road?
Hello?
Honorable Minister, let me repeat my question. I want us to talk about the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway because we cannot have this kind of conversation without talking about that expressway. It's very critical highway in the country. What's the progress report on that road? All right. Let's take another quick break. Speaking with the Minister of Works, Senator Dave Umahi, for discussion on how the federal government is addressing infrastructure deficits. Honorable Minister, as we wrap up tonight, I want us to talk about the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, which is one critical highway in the country. What's the progress on that road?
Well, that road, has the section of the JB, and the other section is by the RCC. And JB, they have done their job, to the level of about, 99%. What is left of them is just the median drain, and that is heartwarming. But the section of RCC, as at the last I inspected it, which about 10 days ago, they were at about 96%. I got to the section of Ibadan that was given, some concern, and I directed them not to remove the asphalt, and they should be able to start one lane, pulverize it, allow traffic on it, and then go over to the other side to work. And that's exactly what I've done. I'm very excited with what they have done in that section. I believe strongly that we will be able to complete that job this year. I know that there's still a small funding gap because it's done under PIDF, domiciled and ASIA. So I'm sure that we are going to complete that project this year.
All right. Honorable Minister of Works, Senator Dave Umahi, thank you so much for coming on Politics Tonight as we discuss the progress made on the infrastructure investments in the country. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.